Welcome to Internship Week. We are very happy to have you on board. And this is the first few sessions of the week, so we're very excited to have you here. My name is Jan Potsman. I'm an assistant director at the Career Center, and I oversee internships for the Career Center. So I am also here to introduce you to our speaker today. His name is James Mitchell, and James grew up in and currently resides in Santa Clarita. He got his associate's degree at College of the Canyons and his bachelor's degree at CSUN. James worked various retail and service industry jobs during and out of high school and during his time at CSUN, which is how he ultimately ended up working as a supervisor at a CVS store in the Valley. While working at the store, James was able to learn about their business, company culture, as well as how to build and lead a team. He was also able to acquire his California Pharmacy Tech license through CVS's Board of Pharmacy Accredited Technician Training Program. After working in the store, James transitioned to the CVS team or to the training team at CVS, teaching those same pharmacy classes as well as management training classes. He worked in training for about 4 years, initially teaching in-person classes, then via virtual sessions, before moving into his current role with talent acquisition. I'd like to introduce you to James Mitchell with CVS Health.
Thank you so much, Jan. So as Jan mentioned, I actually went to CSUN myself, and I currently work for CVS Health. I've been with CVS for about 10 years. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of experiences with CVS, working initially in the store, and then, different HR and corporate positions. And I wanted to basically take a few minutes and kind of talk a bit about us as an organization, what kind of makes us different and special, and talk about some of the different opportunities that I work with CVS to sort of support. So before I go into that too much, we have what we call a talent community. Essentially, the way this works is that someone can go in and they can upload their information into our talent community. And recruiters like myself will actually use the information here to connect with people when we're looking for someone for a job. So if someone is in, for example, in supply chain or in, IT or whatever the case can be, they can go into our talent community, put their information there, and then, as a recruiter, we can go and look at that information. So if anybody is interested in connecting with me, afterwards to get more information, or they just want to, basically go into our talent community, you can use this QR code here to do that. Think of it sort of like the ability to apply for a job that may not fully exist yet. So it's a nice tool for to have access to. And I do have this QR code a few more times throughout this presentation here. So if you don't catch it this second, that's completely fine. So first, I kind of want to go into just a bit about us as an organization. So we are traditionally a retail pharmacy chain. But in the last decade or so that I've been with CVS, I've been able to really watch us evolve into a healthcare organization. And it's been a pretty fun thing to be a part of, right? So we're a Fortune 4 company. We're bigger than most people, I think, realize. And our mission is to bring our heart to every moment of your health. So we commit ourselves to actions that keep our heart at the center of our work. And we do this by putting people first and staying customer obsessed, rising to the challenge, and being willing to innovate when needed, and then joining forces for the greater good of the customer and creating simplicity for our customers and employees, and inspiring trust by acting with integrity. So, these are our hard at work behaviors, and I'll kind of talk about these a bit more in a little here, but basically, these are seen every day throughout our company culture, and they're kept in the forefront of our minds when developing our colleagues into strong future leaders. And so when anyone is sort of thinking about where they're going to go with their career, I think it's really important to think about the mission or the goals of that company and make sure they really align with your own purpose, right? With your own values and your own goals. So one of our harder work behaviors is putting people first. And then this is reflected in the value that we hold for diversity, for inclusion, and for belonging. So we have actually in California about 1,100 stores and about 10,000 throughout the country. And it's really important for us that the stores represent the community that they're serving. So we want to ensure that our colleague demographics reflect the community and that we're able to instill a sense of belonging, not only for our colleagues, but also for our customers. So we take pride in ensuring a sense of inclusion and belonging for all 300,000 plus of our colleagues by creating a workplace defined by personal connections and making certain that everyone has a seat at the table, and also for showing genuine care for one another. To strengthen these efforts over the next 5 years, CVS is investing $600 million to advance employee, community, and public policy initiatives that address inequities faced by historically disenfranchised communities. And then colleague resource groups are something that we have that are an opportunity for all CVS employees to get involved and get exposure with people from different backgrounds. Last year, we had 22,000 individual colleagues involved across our 15 different colleague resource groups. And those that are a part of the resource, you don't have to identify with that group. This is a way to learn. This is a way to network and to gain exposure. Corporate responsibility is another large-scale initiative for us to ensure a positive impact on our communities, right? We aim for this impact to happen within our people, with our businesses, with our communities, and our planet. And so I'm going to talk about a few of the different ways that we are working towards being a responsible corporation. So first, we have healthy people. So at a time when our purpose has never been more critical, we're making healthcare more accessible and more affordable for our customers. As a part of this effort, we administered 10 million plus COVID tests in 2020, including 165,000 at community sites. And actually, I found out recently that CVS in 2020 administered more COVID tests than any other healthcare company in the country. So then we have healthy business. So we actually look to sell products made by diverse suppliers. So these are women-owned or veteran-owned, for example. So our shelf space resembles our customers and the communities that we serve. CVS Launch is one example of a formalized program we offer for emerging brands to grow their reach with us. These initiatives provide value for all of those involved in our business. So we have healthy community, and beyond healthcare, we also provide critical services including housing, transportation, food security, and education. Many of our colleagues support these efforts by donating more than $6.6 million in value of volunteerism at food banks, at local churches, and other nonprofits. And so if volunteering is an interest of yours, that's something you can definitely do with us at CVS. And then we have Healthy Planet. We measure our impact as a company and hold ourselves accountable for our responsibility in maintaining a healthy planet. One way we contribute to this is via the Beyond the Bag initiative, which was something we did to advance a more sustainable and waste-free future for the retail bag. And then I'm here, talking specifically about retail management. So I want to make sure that I focus on how that ties into, some of the things that I've been talking about when it comes to, improved health and that part of our business. So, probably the biggest contribution that we're known for is when we decided to remove tobacco products from our shelves in 2014, despite very large financial losses. And I actually worked at a store in LA when we did this, and I remember emptying the cash wraps in the shelves of all the tobacco products and replacing it with smoking cessation products to help customers quit with us, and being very proud to work for a company that would take such a forward-thinking decision. It was important for us to do that because, at that point we became CVS Health, and we couldn't be a healthcare-focused company and also be selling tobacco, right? And then with keeping our customers' health a top priority, we also provide healthier food options for our stores. We have more organic products, and then, besides the traditional sodas or candies, the registers, you can find, vegan and gluten-free and dairy-free options as well. And then regarding CVS Beauty, so beauty is one of our really large initiatives that we do within our company. Beauty Mark was created and rolled out in our stores in 2018. And this is our pledge to help pass a healthy self-image on to the next generation. And this is important because health is physical health, but it's not just that. It's also emotional health. It's also mental health. And so, self-esteem is a really big part of health. And, having unrealistic standard of beauty can be really damaging for self-esteem. So, you can see in this image here that we have a watermark designed to kind of highlight imagery that has not been materially altered. So any imagery that CVS puts in our locations to highlight our own beauty products, we do not materially alter. It's just the model. No Photoshop, no manipulation has been done to those images. And we also make sure that we only sell products with SPF of 15 or more. And we try to sell more, natural and organic items and eliminate chemicals of concern. Our health publications are something really exciting that CVS has been doing. We had been doing this, going back, I'd say about 10 years ago. We started really kind of rolling these out in locations. You'll see these around the Los Angeles area. They're different than our traditional stores. They have a larger variety of healthcare services. So you can go there and they'll do treatments for common illnesses, as well as chronic conditions like diabetes or sleep disorders or high blood pressure or depression, for example. And then they have specialized care concierge staff that can assist with things like they'll sell and work with your insurance to get you a CPAP machine, for example, to treat sleep apnea. If you woke up one day and just didn't feel well, you can walk in there with no appointment and they can write you a prescription, and then you're already at the actual pharmacy. There's community centers that are built in here that could one day be like weight loss classes. They're not currently operational because of COVID, but it's exciting to see what we can do with those. I mentioned we have about 1,100 stores in California and around 10,000 across the country. The model that we're doing is about a third of our stores are ultimately going to have these health hub presence in them. And actually in the future, about another third of our stores, we're going to have primary care physicians in them. So we're going to have actual doctors inside our stores. The idea here is that in this country, there's a lot of opportunities around healthcare, right? Healthcare is confusing and expensive. A lot of people don't know how to do healthcare. I look back at when I was younger, and the two things that I really regret not knowing were, one, how to be financially responsible, and two, how to take care of my health. A lot of people don't have access to healthcare. They don't know how to go and see a doctor. Urgent cares can be expensive and kind of traumatic. Hospitals are even worse. And so because about 75% of the US population lives within 10 minutes of a CVS, we have a real opportunity here to become a local healthcare center for most people. In the same way that someone might decide they want coffee and think Starbucks, right? They could decide that they need healthcare services and know that there's a local CVS. And this is something in the last few years that has really been an opportunity for us because so many people have been introduced to CVS in a different way. Whereas before, you may have just gone in for a greeting card for someone for Valentine's Day, or maybe you wanted like a Red Bull before class, right? Now you're going in because you need your COVID test or your COVID vaccine, and you see all the other services that we can offer for people. If someone's interested in healthcare, interested in helping people, this is a great opportunity to manage a different kind of business, right? All right, so then I'm going to talk to you a little bit more on the actual internship that I help support. So this is a 9-week program. I oversee this throughout the state of California. We start June 6th and we go through August 5th. It's a paid internship. It allows you to gain hands-on experience and develop your managerial skills. You'll see firsthand what it takes to be a store manager and run the retail business of a Fortune 4 company. Because our managers really oversee all aspects of the business, from human resources to merchandising and inventory, you get to develop skills in everything, right? Customer service and problem solving and time management and inventory management and strategic thinking and financial planning and more. while also learning just the key soft skills around being a store team leader and helping your team achieve goals. The interns have travel days with their district leader, which is pretty fun. And then I arrange different networking opportunities to expose the interns to higher level roles within the company. So these are things like with our human resource business partners and talent development managers and training managers and asset protection leaders. And the idea here again is to sort of provide exposure to possible career goals later on, once someone has kind of gotten acclimated with the business, right, and had an opportunity to do the store management type of role. We also work on a capstone project. The idea here is to solve a real world problem in one of our stores. It's a lot of fun. You get to find something you're passionate about. Maybe it's community service, or maybe it's the healthcare piece, or maybe you're analytical and you enjoy asset protection. So you get to spend time actually trying to find a real world solution and bring a kind of a diversity of thought to an opportunity in one of our stores. At the conclusion of the internship, we encourage our interns to apply for our post-grad position, which is called the Emerging Store Leader. So this is a full-time permanent post-grad professional position. But the way it's designed is it's a self-paced program that dives deeper into the understanding of key skills that help someone be successful in running their own business. So, inventory and merchandising and financial management, employee staffing and training and development, and in delivering results. And then once someone has completed this program, they would step into running their own store. And then, from there, there'd be all kinds of places someone could go within the organization. We're a Fortune 4 company, and so the sky really is the limit, especially with a company that's innovating and growing and evolving as much as we are. Within the field, you have a district leader or asset protection, or field training is where I initially went before going into where I am now at talent acquisition. Human resources or training within the store manager, or corporate. We have not only CVS, we have Aetna. In 2018, we acquired Aetna, which is the third largest private insurance company. We have Quorum, which does infusions. We have Omnicare, which is mail order prescriptions. So we have this whole evolving and innovating healthcare brand, and it's a lot of fun to imagine the kind of opportunities there. All right, and then last thing that I have here is just 2 more QR codes. If you snap these, if you're interested in more information about the actual internship, the one on the left should take you there. And if you want more information on that post-grad position, you do not have to do the internship to apply for the Emerging Store Leader position. The only actual requirement is a bachelor's degree. You can apply for that before you've graduated and actually have an offer on the table, again, before graduation. All right, and that's all that I have. I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Okay, I have one question about the internship program. Does the internship program lead to where could that take me? That's what I wanted to know. What pathway could it take me to?
So I think that it's a great opportunity for someone who's still in that place in life where they're trying to decide maybe what's next, right? It gets you a gateway into a Fortune 4 company. It gets you a gateway into a healthcare company. I like to tell the story of how I ended up at CBS. I was working retail jobs to put myself through school. I worked at a few companies that went out of business when I was there. This is when I was in school. I don't know if anybody here remembers Radio Shack. I worked at a Radio Shack out in Santa Clarita. It was a lot of fun up until it closed down. I also worked at a video store back when those were a thing. And that closed down. And that kind of spooked me because I was, putting a lot of time and energy into a company that was gone. And then I started seeing larger companies that I was familiar with, like Toys R Us and, Sears and that kind of thing close up. And I would venture that if, at least where I am in Santa Clarita, I think it's probably similar and, wherever you all are, if you go to your mall, if you drive around, you're going to see a fair amount of empty shops. And that's scary and that's frustrating and that's sad, right? The thing about healthcare is that it's in a lot of ways kind of recession proof, right? I've now watched CVS very successfully, weather two kind of financial crises. So, the thing that initially attracted me was the opportunity of having job stability, but also having, job growth opportunities. So, directly it would take you, internship and then emerging store leader. And again, the way that works is that you're learning what it takes to run the actual business. And then from there, you would, take over your own store. And, after that, you could work your way up through the stores to be a training manager, to like a district leader supporting multiple stores. There's field support, right? So there's all kinds of things there, human resources and the divisions within that, like training or talent acquisition or workforce initiatives, or asset protection, if that's something that interests you. Then with our corporate side, we're a Fortune 4. I do want to be, careful in that, like, traditionally speaking, a lot of our corporate stuff did require someone to be on like location, which for us, our big corporate campuses are Rhode Island, Arizona, Texas. It would depend on where someone wanted to go. Traditionally, with any type of corporate position, if you're comfortable relocating, you will get a lot farther, a lot faster. In the last few years, things have been much more remote, right? Which in a lot of ways is a benefit, especially for us in California, where we find that a lot of those corporate offices aren't in, California. So there are a lot more of those positions, but things are changing, right? Things are sort of organic. I don't think that anyone really knows long term how much is going to remain virtual versus wanting to go back in person. And that's not something that's exclusive for CBS, right? That's a lot of companies right now. They're trying to sort of sort out what that looks
like. So can you tell me what is CVS's philosophy about hiring process? So do they hire more from within the company or do they hire from the outside?
We try really hard to promote from within whenever we can. I can't speak to, like, I don't want to speak to CVS globally as a company in that regard, other than it is something that we're it's important to us. But I'll speak for myself personally. I've always been very passionate about trying to give opportunities to internal colleagues. Around 2015, we started doing this front sort of pharmacy program, which kind of got alluded to in my bio. And basically what that is CVS is Board of Pharmacy accredited. People go to school to get their tech license all the time. You can actually do that at CVS without having to pay for the actual formal education. It's part of the kind of extensive training that we do. We do a pharmacy version of it. And so we really encourage our front store staff and actually management as well to learn the pharmacy side of our business. And it's really exciting because, I interact with people who come to the company as a store associate, don't necessarily know long-term what they're going to do. And they have the opportunity to gain, both a skill and a career, right, as a pharmacy technician, which is a pretty exciting thing that we do. This emerging store leader thing, it's something that we try to do a lot with our internal colleagues as well. We just in general, because we have, more openings, because we have more locations, right, than a lot of traditional retailers would, because again, we have 1,100 stores. We just need to make sure that we're diversifying our pipeline however we can, which is why, I'm working with the schools in addition to us looking for internal opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions that are coming through the chat? Just checking. We have the people that have signed in for today's presentation have stayed here. So you have some staying power here, James. I want to let you know. That doesn't always happen. People come, they're there for 4 or 5 minutes, and then they drop out. But every single person that has signed in is still there. So any of you have any questions that you would like to ask James? We have a question from Michelle. Can you put it in the chat, please?
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, Michelle. How have you been?
Michelle, can you put that in the chat, please?
Yeah, sure, I will.
So, Jan, Michelle was actually one of my interns last summer.
Oh, okay. I'm asking her to put it in the chat
No
because
problem.
of we want to post this on YouTube, and so we can't have her audio or visual there.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, Michelle, you must be typing away. So just waiting for your message. Okay. Let's see. What advice do you have for someone who is starting in the Emerging Store Leader Program? How long is the program?
Okay. So the actual structured training, I'll take the second part first. The actual structured part of the Emerging Store Leader is 16 weeks long. CVS has been doing this management training for a while. I actually did it myself about 8 years ago, and it's evolved since I've done it. But because we have so many locations, we're constantly tweaking and working to make sure that we're able to maximize this program. And it touches everyone from colleagues that work their way up through the company to people who are managers outside of CVS. So it has to be, robust and something that can kind of self-paced. But the core concept to it is 16 weeks long. We cover things like how to, read and work with a profit and loss statement, how to recruit and interview and hire for your store, how to, merchandise in a way that will make sense to maximize sales. In addition to all the different classroom pieces that we do, there's other versions of training. What's really unique about the way this is set up is each of our districts will have around 15 or so stores. There's only 2 or 3 stores where we actually will do this training, and will not generally have more than 4 or 5 of these emerging store leaders in the district. The reason they do this is that they're able to make sure that we're always giving attention and always making sure that we're helping someone advance. If anyone's worked in a service job, or I guess really kind of any kind of job where you feel like you're not really getting noticed, no one's really paying attention to your next steps or your progress, this really helps us make sure that's not the case, because the whole point of this role is to develop somebody. So while the training itself is 16 weeks, someone would still stay in that actual position until they were ready to take over their own store. That varies from person to person, and it varies by market. Traditionally, 6 months to a year and a half, I would say, is when I would normally see someone get promoted from emerging store leader to having their own store. Again, being willing to relocate will always help you advance faster. That's going to be in any kind of industry, because there's going to be market things that will affect that as well. So advice for someone who's starting position, I would say be open-minded, be comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. Right? You're going to have to go in there basically knowing that up front there's a lot that you don't know, and trusting that hopefully whoever you're working with, they're going to be able to help guide you and help you get to a place where you are successful. And sometimes that means being vulnerable. Beyond that, I think that in our industry, it helps a lot to be someone who likes to help people, especially being a healthcare company. The thing that's unique about working at, I'd say, a pharmacy versus other traditional service jobs, if I go to, the grocery store, for example, that's just a thing that I do. It's in the background, right? I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing. When I go to a pharmacy, generally I'm going to be sick, or not feeling well, or my family, maybe my kids, right? My parents, they're not feeling well. This makes me a little more vulnerable. And those emotions that people would generally have just when you're going shopping, they can be kind of high, the goods and the not good, right? So we're able to have a really powerful, important impact on people's lives. And because we have a lot of repeat business, we get to have really great connections with people. At the same time, when someone's sick, they might be frustrated, right? They might be upset. Healthcare, like I mentioned, can be confusing. It can be expensive. So if you're someone who enjoys helping people, that goes a long way as well, because we need to have a positive frame of mind, because, you know, as the leader of the store, we're really there to set the pace and the tone for the entire store. And a lot really rests on our shoulders for what we're doing. Because again, these aren't just stores, right? These are healthcare places. People are going through the life-saving medications. And if we don't run that store properly, then, you know, the end result may be people don't have access to those medications. That's a pretty big responsibility.
Thank you for sharing that information. It's really one of the first times I've ever heard anybody talk about a retail environment in that way. And especially, like you said, it's a pharmacy. So people are dealing with some life and death issues when they come in, and also maybe in a frame of mind that might be a little bit different than going to Del Taco, because it's a service industry too. And so it's keeping that in mind also will build your customer base and keep, not only maintain it, but build it, and supporting the people that come and shop at CVS. That's really wonderful. And thank you, Michelle, for that question. I think it was a good question. We had another question about, are you familiar with OPT and CPT? I can articulate it for you if you like. Okay, so for international students, they have some options available to them. One, if they have a requirement of an internship in their coursework, let's say they're a management major, and they're required to do an internship. They can do so if they can get a work permit to work within, let's say, work within CVS. It does not have to be sponsored by CVS. It comes through their courses, and it's done on campus, where they can get furnished a work permit to work for, let's say, a semester. For that's CPT. It's called curricular practical training. And then there's another form that when students graduate, and they're international students, they can apply for something called OPT, which stands for optional practical training, which lasts for a year. So they get a work permit where they can work for a year in the United States. And then after that, they either require sponsorship or they're complete. You know, like they've trained, they've learned whatever it is they wanted to learn within the year, and then they go back to their country. So do you provide options available for OPT and CPT?
Okay. Yes and no. So the reason it gets tricky is that we're such a large company. There's lots of different areas of what we do, and the rules are going to kind of vary based on the position. Anytime that anyone applies for any position at CVS, there's a series of questions that you fill out. They're called gateway questions. Mm-hmm. Basically, depending on the actual position, that answer is going to change. Because there are some positions where we sponsor, where we'll take international, and there's some where we will not. And basically, when you actually fill out that position, that application, it would essentially answer that question for you at that point.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense or not, but yeah. So
Yeah, I
I
think it
can't. Yeah,
does.
yeah.
I-
It will because it truly will depend on the actual position. So I don't want to say yes and have someone apply for a position at CVS where it didn't work, and I don't want to say no and discourage them from applying for something where we might have had the opportunity to do that.
Right. The reason why that is uh, the case, I mean, they're asking these questions that we do have a lot of international students. And I know that is the case for a lot of different industries. So when I say a lot of different industries, like for example, a company like Northrop Grumman, which
Mhm.
is, aerospace and defense. And certain companies will not hire because they have government contracts and they have defense agencies. So they won't hire in this area. But
Yeah.
then there's like a marketing firm that might hire. So, why, when you say based on the questions, it would be that makes sense based on
Yeah.
the position that you have and the
Correct.
security behind it. It's logical.
Yeah. So I know, for example, for a lot of our pharmacy positions, we do, right? Currently, right now, for the retail internships, that's not something that we do.
Okay. So that just gives you some insight, whomever asked that question. You've got some answers there. Let me just check one more time to see if there's anything else in the chat. And I think that might be it, but that was an interesting question. Okay, let's see. Nope, that's it. So if thank you, Michelle, because that really did clarify things, at least for me, and I think for the rest of the students that are on board here. I'd like to say thank you to James for representing CVS Health. You can see there's a lot of growth going on. Oh, there was one other question I wanted to ask James, and that is about the kind of minute clinic or health hub
Mhm.
areas. What do you anticipate as your growth in that area as far as let's say in, I'm not sure how the districts are set up, but let's say just in the state of California alone.
Like what is that going to look like for us long term?
Yeah.
So if you think about like Kaiser, for example, right? Like if you're familiar with the Kaiser model, where you basically have sort of like a one kind of stop shop where you go there to see, a physician, and then if you want to go to a pharmacy, the pharmacy is there. You want to see a specialist, they might have access to, or they might kind of have someone that can send you. Think of something similar, but with 10,000 locations, right? So just in your mind, start thinking about where all the CVS are. So for example, on Balboa alone, there's half a dozen of them, if not even more than
Yeah.
that. You throw a rock and you hit a CVS. Now start imagining each one of those as a healthcare destination where you can get about 80 to 90% of what you would normally have to do at a primary care physician, right? So not to replace the primary care physician, but a great way to supplement, right? So again, like if you just woke up and had like an ear infection and you don't know what to do, maybe actually seeing your primary care physician is not super convenient. They don't have an appointment right around the corner. Going to an urgent care can be not a really phenomenal experience. You can just kind of walk into the minute clinic. You can make an appointment with your phone if you want to, and you're one-on-one with the nurse practitioner who will write you a prescription for the antibiotics, right? If you need some kind of immunization, whether it's like pneumonia or shingles or your work or your school or something needs some kind of immunization, they can do all those things for you. You have a kiddo going off to summer camp and they want them to have physical beforehand, right? They can do that. Things like, if you need help quitting smoking or losing weight, or you just need a wellness check once a year, because I mentioned that I didn't really learn how to be healthy until honestly much later than I should have. Just even once a year, going to make sure that your blood, sugar is good and all those kind of things. They can do all that stuff for you. So that, but like at thousands of locations. So that's what that's evolving to. And then again, like the future is going to be actual primary care physicians in the stores as well. So, you know, the retail footprint will be less pronounced, and the healthcare footprint will be much, much larger. It's interesting, you know, we acquired Aetna in 2018, but it really feels much more like Aetna acquired CVS. Our CEO, Karen Lynch, was the CEO of Aetna. And so we are truly becoming this whole different kind of healthcare company. And we just happen to have the reach, and we happen to have the ability to really kind of go in there and solve a big opportunity in this country around, you know, having access to healthcare, which again, it's a pretty neat thing to be a part of.
Interesting. I find, you know, I find that really interesting, and the fact that your CEO was the CEO for Aetna, and the combination. It's so you've got, there is definitely an emerging need, as well as you know, evolution. We're always in constant change. And so I thank you for sharing your expertise today. We will be wrapping up for today. So students, if you're interested, remember that you can email James, or you can connect with him through the QR code. Again, thanks again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right. Goodbye now.